But logically, if they informed you, you wouldn't be paying them to enslave you. Do you understand? Including your Negro leader guys that got you marching and praying and paying taxes to a government that has been dissolved, who give them kickbacks in the church with a 501c3 to keep this BS going. Do you understand? So let's step into the real world of politics. Congressional record, the Senate for the United States of North America, the 64th Congress, first session, volume 53, part 7, page 6781, 25th of April, 1916. So keep in mind, so the Congress is meeting 1916. Remember, Drew Ali set up the Old Canaanite Temple 1913. So Woodrow Wilson met with the popes and the English bankers off Georgia in 1913 and sold the government to counter him, because you're the heirs to the estate. You got to understand the real politics so that you understand the dynamics, what's against you that no one is speaking of. Because once you know, you change your state of mind. Means someone can lead you to the water, but they can't make you drink. And if you don't understand the real politics, usually they have Negro leader guys out here have you spinning your wheels, doing marching and praying things that really have no effect, but it keeps you busy while the real world of the matrix is operating around you. You understand? And you're misplugged and don't even know it. And they're draining your energies. Do you understand? All right, so listen to this. And this has been made available to you so you can have a copy of this. Also, we put this in the Protocols of Liberty book in context so that you can historically look at this properly. But this is from the congressional records. Now, this is one of the senators in reference to this treaty that they all know about, because this is the foundation of the politics. I wish to put into the record the secret Treaty of Verona of November the 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. I wish to call the attention of the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which was the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. So when you're studying so-called American history about the Monroe Doctrine and sovereign states, etc., now you understand the motivation why certain things were done politically, so now you can put it in context. Are we clear? And also understand some of your political positions and non-positions. All right. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between the monarchical government and government by the people. The Holy Alliance, and you know who that references, under the influence of Metternich, the premier of Austria, in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document. So this is what all the Europeans have been operating on, Klan and all the rest of them, and they got Negro leaders out there who they pay off. They get you to argue racism and prejudice and color games, and they're operating off the Treaty of Verona. Are we clear? Secret Treaty of Verona, American Diplomatic Code 1778, 1884. Keep in mind they had the Berlin Conference 1884-85, dividing the Ottoman Empire. So you got to understand history. Ottoman Empire is really Moorish Empire. You got to really understand this. Volume 2, Elliott, page 179, Secret Treaty of Verona. The undersigned specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance after having exchanged their respective credentials have agreed as follows. Article 1. The high contracting powers being convinced that the system of representative government is equally as incompatible with the monarchical principles as the maxim of the sovereignty of the people with the high divine right, engage mutually in the most solemn manner to use all their efforts to put an end to the system of representative governments in whatever country it may exist in Europe, and to prevent its being introduced in those countries where it is not yet known. Article 2. As it cannot be doubted that the liberty of the press is the most powerful means used by the pretended supporters of the rights of nations, to the detriment of those princes, the high contracting parties promise reciprocally to adopt all proper measures to suppress it, not only in their own states, but also in the rest of Europe. Article 3. Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience, which they owe to their princes. The high contracting parties declare it to be their interest to sustain in their respective states those measures which the clergy may adopt, with the aim of ameliorating their own interests, so intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes. And the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them, and solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nations. Article 4. The situation of Spain and Portugal unite unhappily all the circumstances to which this treaty has particular reference. The high contracting parties, in confiding to France the care of putting an end to them, engaged to assist her in the manner which may the least compromit them with their own people and the people of France by means of a subsidy on the part of the two empires, 20 million of francs every day from the date of the signature of this treaty to the end of the war. Article 5. In order to establish in the peninsula the order of things which existed before the revolution of Cadiz, and to ensure the entire execution of the articles of the present treaty, the high contracting powers give to each other the reciprocal assurance that as long as their views are not fulfilled, rejecting all other ideas of utility or other measure to be taken, and they will address themselves with the shortest possible delay to all the authorities existing in their states and to all their agents in foreign countries, with the view to establish in their states and to all their agents in foreign countries with the view to establish connections tending toward the accomplishment of the objects proposed by this treaty. Article 6. This treaty shall be renewed with such changes as new circumstances may give occasion for, either at a new Congress or at the court of one of the contracting parties, as soon as the war with Spain shall be terminated. Article 7. The present treaty shall be ratified and the ratifications exchanged at Paris within the space of 6 months, made at Verona on the 22nd day of November 1822. Now, this is the reason why it's important for you to know that when they're making reference to Spain, knowing that you don't know true geography, they're talking about from the Gulf of Mexico, Louisiana Territory, right on up to Canaan land that you call Canada. and that the so-called Spanish Inquisition is the Inquisition against the Moors and Yahudi, meaning that we're Muslims and Jews. We're the real Jews. Though it ain't no J, we're Yahudi. Do you understand? And this is the treaty that's used by the European nations in agreement to subvert all Republican forms of government. This is why you don't see the politicians talking about Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution contract, which commands a Republican form of government for every state in the Union. And they keep saying democracy, which is the code word for the overthrow. Are we clear? Now, to back that up, I'm going to remind you again, as I was reminding the sister, as I was reminding you, and the brother, yourself, concept about judicial, non-judicial. All right, so I'm just going to read just a couple of paragraphs from James Traficant's speech, again, on the floor of the Senate. And this is important for you to keep this in mind so that you don't fall victim to that mentality that some people notice and some people don't. You're the only one that didn't notice. Are we clear? And keep in mind the reason why your preachers didn't tell you, because they got a 501c3 agreement with the popes of Rome to keep you all spooked, as is stated in Article 3 of the treaty, because most of the people think they're being taught spirituality. Religion is a mind control system. Do you understand? In other words, but the way it's worded, you must understand. True religion is cosmogony, cosmology. The masses get dogma. Are we clear? And it's used for social controls. It has nothing to do with true spirituality. It's political. You're worshiping the Pope, not Jesus, not Allah, not Muhammad, not Buddha, the Pope. This is why the Inquisition Revenue Services is disguised as the Internal Revenue Services. That's why I gave you all the other week their incorporation papers so you can understand it belongs to private hands. They're Nazis. Has nothing to do with the United States government. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So you must know what's against you, and you must know why we're emphasizing to you to nationalize so that you can begin to even smell protection in law. Let's more exercise it. I mean, you got to fix the foundation before you can even get close to even begin to exercise rights. So to put things in context, let's read again, and this is really good, brother, for you to keep this in mind, even though it's about 4 pages. We're going to just read part of the first page. All right. Again, the House of Representatives, that's your Senate, your Congress, President pro tempore, all your politicians, and then it whittles down into the communities, to the governors, et cetera, down to their little boroughs and cities and towns. And so now you understand why the profile stuff for them running little townships on our people, it comes from this Treaty of Verona. United States of North America, Speaker, Representative James Traficant, Jr. of Ohio, addressing the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11, and members of Congress are official trustees. So write that down. Keep in mind, this is why we always mention you understand trust law. Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. So now you must understand that the U.S. government is an entity. It's a political entity. It's a corporation. This is also why last week, the other week, we gave you the incorporation papers of the United States so you can understand it's not the land. It's a business pretending to be government. So it is an established fact. So we are here setting forth, this is his words, we are setting forth hopefully a blueprint for our future, and there are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States government, federal government, has been dissolved. Are we clear? Are we clear? Did everybody understand that? I'm going to repeat. This is so that your concepts will be correct. So now we're talking about judicial and non-judicial. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March the 9th, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt, being insolvent, bankrupt and insolvent, HJR 192, 73rd Congress, in session June the 5th, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, and all United States officers, and departments are now operating within a de facto status, in name only, under emergency war powers, with the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved. The receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States, and this new form of government is known as a democracy. Now you understand why they keep throwing that word around? So if you're not aware of this and understand what protects you to the Republic when they have fired themselves, sold the offices, and maintained and actually created an artificial zombie shadow government that has no law whatsoever and are still sitting in the seats pretending to be government. Now you understand why you see the Europeans in their so-called sovereign argument saying it's dangerous to be a U.S. citizen. Now you understand how that Zuckerberg, when they was going to take half his finance when Facebook went IPO and he went and nationalized. He ain't white man no more. He's Swiss. Oh yeah. And I guarantee, even though everybody's suing him up the yin yang because they pissed, he ain't gonna be broke because he nationalized. But you need to understand, they can't nationalize here. He had to go to Switzerland. Then he got married real quick. So you really gotta understand the power of nationality. But you gotta go a little deeper because you're the one that's been asleep the longest. You understand? So keep in mind, they have all these fake departments exercising judicial powers that don't exist with them, with offices that don't exist. Meaning they're private Klan members pretending to be government, using the authority of the Constitution while subverting it. And got Negro leaders with one foot in the White House, one foot in the church, keeping you busy talking about civil rights that don't damn exist. And then they get paid off by Rome with a 501c3 tax exempt status and tell you that it's a gift from Jesus and God, when actually it's an agreement with the popes. And you think they love Jesus. And so you gotta understand the real politics of the world if you're gonna save yourself and your babies. And logically, when it comes to matters of your quote-unquote property, remember that all the instruments that they presented to you are put in what you call their state trusts. And this is what they've been leaning or creating those bonds on and selling them to the Treasury that doesn't exist, But the treasury is actually the Pope's treasury, because the United States treasury has been dissolved. Are we clear? And so you've got to know these things, so when you begin to thinking that, you know, let me go down and see I'm going down the county and get a pastille. And see, because I talked to the mayor, and the mayor said, them suckers are imposters. Every last one of them. And you're paying taxes to them.
Watching C-SPAN the other night, and I was watching the Queen's Jubilee, and she claims sovereignty. They addressed her as most gracious sovereign, and during her speech, she said that 1/3 of the Earth's population is part of her realm, her territory. So now I thought she was just ceremonial.
She's talking about the Treaty of Verona. You know, and you know, continue, because get everything out.
So I'm looking at the Moorish Empire and the treaties between the I guess the Moors and Great Britain, and then how does that play into, I guess, her claim of sovereignty, and how valid is it?
When they talk about, they say the sun never rises or sets on the British Empire.
That's right.
Because they inherited the Moorish Empire. This is what you have, this is why you have to be aware of world history to know your history. This is why persons who are paid off by Rome use the color code system in order to cause what is called psychologically and psychology disassociation, to disassociate the heirs to make them what is called in law non-descendable. This is, write that down. Non-descendable. We're talking about a state now, a state law. And keep in mind, the U.S. corporation has been the trustees. In other words, the U.S. corporation is what you would call the marketing arm of the Spanish Inquisition, as distinguished from the United States, the Republic, which was the agreement between the Moors and the Christians. Are we clear? So you got to be very, very, very clear in your mind what's going on. And so the treaty, just like when you see here mentioned here, 1884, you got to remember the Berlin Conference. So write that down so you can do some research. Berlin Conference, 1884, 1885. This is one of the last of their major meetings, dividing up what they'll list in history as the Ottoman Empire, which is the Moorish Empire. All the T-bonds that you see world governments cashing in so that they don't have, so that the people don't run off the streets and choke whoever's leading, if they can get their hands on them. And while they're murdering the people, because they know the people's coming at them, they're cashing in then U.S. T-bonds as fast as they can, because them suckers is curling up, because they're no good, because you're becoming conscious. But you don't know how important you are, not only to yourself, but to the entire planet. This is why, you know, how when you hear terms like the fake terms that the sellout leaders are saying, they're scared of the black man. No, they're scared when you find out you're not the black man. Do you understand? Because keep this in mind, in a state law, you have been declared by the basic civilized world as non-descendable chattel property. Meaning that you could never receive an estate because you're in dishonor of your mothers and your fathers. Means that you've been buying and selling with the mark and the number of another man's name for generations, which puts you in dishonor. Do you understand? And when you buy something in another nation's name, you're acting as an agent. So whatever you buy or sell automatically belongs to the corporate state. So the state takes whatever you buy, hypothecate it, create bonds against it, and sell it on the world. That's what T-bonds are. Are you clear? And that's your bondage, not a chain. We're talking real politics now. Do you understand? And you must understand this. You must really absolutely comprehend this so that you know whatever you're doing, whether you're nationalizing, whether you're using uniform commercial codes, whatever you're using, you must be conscious of this because this undergirds the whole of the politics. Not to know it is dangerous. Because keep in mind that when you walk into this realm of these degrees, it shakes the world because you're the wealthiest people on the planet, but you're the only ones that didn't know it for generations. And so when you rise, it's a lot of people going to fall. So they'll even kill to keep this information from you. Because anybody who's been to the mountaintop and seen the promised land and tells Rome he's going to tell you, they're going to kill him, especially if he got an oath with them. But you don't have an oath with them. That's why you're being nationalized, because you're the heir. Do you understand? Because if you're given these secrets in the secret orders, you take an oath to Rome not to reveal them, and they will make you disappear. Do you understand? Why? This is real world politics. This is the rabbit hole pulled up. Do you understand? For real. It is really unplugging you from the matrix. For real. In the real world. And so the reason why we want you to have, because we know that it cannot be done in a few lectures, it really can't, but if we can get you to honestly look at this and begin to peel stuff off your eyes, you'll do the rest of freeing of yourself on your own. Because you've been given enough other information that will advance you quickly. But understand, because of how serious this is, it's also dangerous. Because this is world politics, so don't take this lightly just because you're in an humble setting. Do you understand? So you will get resistance. And this is where the power of your unity comes in. But recognize that the rest of the civilized world already recognize you. The problem is you don't recognize you. And the other problem is that some upon you keep trying to sell you the unalienable birthright, which is not sellable. Which is both divinely a violation and a violation of international law. And so certain things that I've said to you more than one time is because it's to purge you of false concepts. Because now you're dealing with real politics. You don't have the option of guessing. You need to know. For you've been destroyed for a lack of knowledge, not a lack of belief, not a lack of prayer, not a lack of salat, not a lack of peanut butter sandwiches. A lack of knowledge. And so the brothers have made copies of the Treaty of Verona. Study it intently and understand that all European industrialists possess it. All politicians, governors, mayors, councilmen and women possess it. They have kept it from you and had you paying them taxes when they are imposters. So what you've been calling racism, gentrification in the communities, etc., has been them carrying out the Treaty of Verona while they have Negro leaders marching you all around, keeping hope alive on false claims, spinning wheels like you walking on a treadmill, and calling it Core Coalition or whatever you want to call it, whatever other acronym you can figure out. While these same people wear fez in secret and getting paid by Rome to keep the BS going. That's what makes these classes unique from other places that you have went, because they will not go into these degrees. Do you understand? And so if you are a scholar at all, these degrees will take you beyond PhD. Do you understand? So take them seriously, because you will not always have the opportunity to get them. Plus, many people who have them will never give them to you without raping you. And even then, they won't give it to you bluntly. Do you understand? One, because they are beholding to Rome, and two, because many of them want to live off of you. Are we clear? But if you have these keys, you can free yourself, your family, and your babies. And this is why we're also going to give you some codes into bankers. Now, there's a lot more. I don't want to make it complex. So I'm just going to give you some keys, and I want you in your spare time to do some research, all right? So I'm going to give you some keys, and in the future or in due time, as you all have your classes here, you're going to get more seriously into it, because even the European who exposed some of this information can't put his name on anything. He has to travel and stay hidden, because they're going to make him disappear as soon as they can get their hands on him. So you all got papers and pencils? All right. And we won't go into this, but this will give you some keys, and then as we give you some information later on, you can correlate, but this gives you a head start, because you already know we only have a few hours or a couple hours here, and it can't be done, but many of you are already scholars, many of you already know uniform commercial codes and some other things, but this goes a little bit beyond that, all right? But keep in mind, status is the foundation of everything, all right? United States Code. We won't talk about this right now. Write this down. This is for your research. Now, GAP. When you see this acronym GAP in any documents that you might be dealing with, legal documents relative to foreclosures, mortgages, etc., this means generally accepted accounting practices. Keep that in mind, because when it comes to issues in law, when you're dealing with, like, say for instance, when you ask the bank for the promissory note that they don't produce, the allonge that they don't produce, this is going to come into play. So listen to what I'm saying to you, because I'm not giving you a lecture on this. I'm giving you some insight on this. I'm giving you some keys that you're going to have to be building a building. And you're going to have to work this in the workshop of the mind. Do you understand? So you're going to do what they call comparative analysis at all times with the instruments given to you by the bank through any so-called foreclosure process, any process that you might use in demand due to the trust, that the deed of trust that they commit to so-called sell in the foreclosure. Speaking as a trustor, understanding what the real relationship is, you're going to be using this as a guidelines, so y'all keep that in mind. So what you're going to be doing is comparing the proceedings that the bank does, or the lawyers who are assigned to come at you from another angle, the so-called collect, blah, 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 whatever. You're going to be using this, all right? And you're going to do what you're calling comparative analysis, because you're going to find more fault in them. And the reason I'm giving you this is because any court, you'll beat them up. They'll even act under color after the fact because you'll just beat them up, which means with the law, they can't win. So they're going to, again, go into another venue of color because you beat them. But know these things so that when you all come together doing your classes, add it to the venue of what you have knowledge-wise, because now you're in the deep water now. You went past it, you know, like you go to a swimming pool, and then you stand down, you know, way down there with the children, talking about you stroking, and the water comes up to your ankles, and then somebody say, "You really ready to go off the diving board?" You mean up that end, right? No, the lunch basket. I'm down here because the lunch basket's here, you know, and the diving board's up there. Well, this goes deeper than that. That's what this realm is. Are we clear? All right. (24) CFR 3500 point 21. Write that down. I could put more, but that'll get you started, and that'll set you up for some future classes, both here with us or here at Everlasting Life, because we're going to make sure they have the information so that you can disseminate it, because it's going to be long study. All right, just that alone, but it'll give you enough background to start straightening out that magi who's going to try to magistrate you. Do you understand? So you're going to be united and understand that some of these keys are what they call bankers' secrets, and it's for the bankers only. It's not even for the employees. Even the employees don't know this. Are we clear? So you're in the deep part of the swimming pool. All right? And we'll give you some more stuff later on, but go do your homework. Islam, sis, get a sister mic. And this is most important. Now, keep this in mind when you come to Everlasting Life, because you all give classes here. When you come together, the more heads you put together, the more you can start analyzing and start cleaning things up. But I'm going to emphasize this again. If necessary, sisters, meet in your homes with yourselves and break this stuff down, and do it with the same confidence that you act when you're sitting in these offices in these different places running everything else. And don't doubt yourself. Then it will be fixed. But you must shed your belief systems, which are poison. You just didn't know it. Islam says.
Yes, I just thought about something. Are you standing and telling us? So all that 40 acres and a mule and the folks marching for those reparations is not going to come about because we, the indigenous people, are the reparations.
Get in the mic.
Are the reparations.
See, this is the deal. Yeah, you're on, but I'm glad that you're using your reasoning power. See, this is the deal. They all knew, and so did the Negro leader guys that keep pumping the civil rights. As a matter of fact, the little children say like the little brother here. What's your name, little brother?
Nicholas.
Huh?
Nicholas.
All right, Nicholas, come on up for a second. We're going to give you some homework. Now, you know what your homework is?
Yeah.
This is what we want you to do. You got some encyclopedias home?
Yeah.
The older ones?
No.
Now, make sure that he got them older encyclopedias. All right, family? If it's not directly, the older ones. We ain't talking about these ones. Now, this is your assignment. As a matter of fact, if it please you,
Mom's coming.
your mom's come. Come on, Mom. Don't do your Tina Turner thing, girl. Don't do your Tina Turner thing, I feel. All right. What's your name?
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra? Oh, Princess Mataoka. Yeah. Now, his homework is this is what you're going to do. You're going to go look up the Civil Rights Act, all right? And then make a short report on it. Now, the reason you give the job to a child, because children, he's not worried about getting fired off his job, right? And he's not worried about, like, if he was a teacher, being sanctioned if he taught the children the truth. Because what he's going to find out is that was struck down as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Stuff don't count. Are we clear? And you'll find that for yourselves. Now, it's because a child doesn't have an agenda. Now, some adults, like say for instance, if an adult like belong to the NACP or one of the Negro clubs, they'd find that too, but they wouldn't say that because it would recognize that these clubs are treadmills. Got these people marching for stuff that ain't even real and know it. Do you understand? Are we clear? That's your homework. Will you do that for us? In 5. Oh, excuse me. No, this one. Yeah. All right. Nicholas. Because the truth comes from the mouth of babes. Because they're less afraid because most adults won't admit that they're afraid. Because they really serve Rome. They just pretend they serve Jesus, Allah, God, and Muhammad, and all that stuff. Their fear is Rome. Because they won't buy or sell without the mark or the number or the permission of Rome, because he's the Negro God. And everybody in the world knows it. And our people pretend we just fear Jesus. They're lying. Now, back to what we was talking about. Negroes, blacks, and colored are brands. They don't exist as a part of the human family. They are code systems for a caste system created by Dutch masters for persons who were defeated under the Spanish Inquisition, i.e. Moors. All right? When the brand is used, since reparations is a body of laws recognized international for one nation or nations, in war or any act of war to repair another nation damaged by such acts, etc. Without a nationality, reparations cannot, will not, do not apply. Thus, it's necessary for them to promote crayons to make you non-descendable to any civilized law. Such persons only are dealt with programs. Are we clear? That are temporal, temporarily, and are statutory only and conditional. That's why they always assign preacher leader guys who have a foot in the back of the White House telling you that the separation of church and state, working for Rome to keep you busy, they're overseers. Do you understand? In order for reparations to take place, you must have a nationality. And it can't be something that's just made up. It must be a real party to real political history. That's why it's important for you to know the Spanish Inquisition and today's world politics. The entire modern world's politics is based on the battles between the Christians and the Muslims. And you must look at that as political systems, not salami, bologna, and let us pray. Don't even go there. It ain't got nothing to do with none of that. It's political. And therefore, you must know who you are. If you're going to talk reparations in the civilized world, and you don't honor your mothers and fathers, you're non-descendable. Don't even go there. They're not even going to converse with you. But the promise keeps us busy. It keeps hope alive while they screw you. If you get the point?
They've been laughing at us all the time.
Go to the
They've
mic.
been laughing at us all the time because we didn't know.
Because we thought we was going to get 40
Right.
acres and a
Right.
mule.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Which would be what you call a compensation in reparation. And this is why you see the Negro leader guys will never go into the 3630 parallel and teach about the Missouri Compromise and teach about the Dred Scott case with its status principle and the Sundry Free Moors Act. And then why the Negro Act was read on the floor of the Congress, making the distinction between the status of the people, because it had become obvious to these people that they're Moors. Do you understand? And then as soon as they claim that, now these people are in trouble. Why do you think the world's cashing in their treasury bonds? Because people across this country and on the islands are nationalizing, which makes all the T-bonds dead paper. See, in other words, for instance, you try to reason with them, let us pray, and we march and keep all, and we're trying to make them like our color, because if they like our color, we can get a job. I don't know how that works, but they believe that. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we can make them just know that we're somebody, then things will be better. Oh, all right. They're operating off Treaty of Verona. Do you understand? Your Moors walking around talking about how black you are. The treaties that set up the world's politics of the world was made between the Moroccan Empire and England through the Treaty of Verona with the popes, which is why the Queen must pay them within the vernal equinox period under that treaty. She ain't supposed to work, she's a transfer. So the popes make the law, canon law, right? England works the banks, and the U.S. is the war machine and the propagator of dogma under Christianity, which is Christendom and having nothing to do with Jesus, but it's Constantine. That's why the code, the true name of it is this, right? Y'all got this? And we wrote this before, but I know that a lot of you probably keep forgetting. The Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. I wrote that down before. You all wrote that down. That's the official name of what these people are getting, like Sunday when they go to church. They are, this is the official name, Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. And they sitting around talking about Jesus. They're worshiping Constantine, the Roman ruler, paying for their own enslavement, talking about they know the Lordeth. And the preacher working for Rome, that's why he got a 501c3 agreement with the popes of Rome, and these people think it came from Jesus and God, because they don't read. That's why you got to send children to do the work. Reparations? I don't think so. Because every man, woman, and child must honor their mothers and fathers, that their days may be longer upon the earth, not the cloud, earth land. And these people run around talking about their light-skinned, orange-skinned black people, and don't matter what color you are. That's a code system for property. That's why they give such persons prime beef loans, because they're cattle. Why do you think they come get the property? Because they're sharecropping. If they would even read those deeds, it says tenant. Reparations? You're correct. No, it never happened. Do you understand?
So in the Vatican, there are a lot of papers and documents in that Vatican that
Well, why do you think they got upset when that guy wrote that movie, that novel, The Da Vinci Codes? Because he wrote a novel, but he told a lot of truths. He just used a novel to tell the truth. See, because it was a novel, it's fiction, right? But it ain't. Now, remember when the movie opens up, for those who have the movie Da Vinci Codes, remember when it opens up, it's like this Opus Dei member they're running through the museum, right? And you see light and then dark shadows, and you see, you know, old pictures on the wall depicting history. And this Negro, which is a true Negro, that's the pale, that's a Negro. Our people think they're the Negro. That's a Negro. It's chasing him, he's got a gun. He says, oh, you have something that don't belong to you. You mean you want to give your life to keep the secrets? And then the guy pulls down the gate, thought he got away, right? The guy comes and he says, you want to give your life to keep the secret? This guy pulls this picture down and a key drops out from under it. And then the movie, you know, it fades into another scene, but apparently he must have gave up the secret. And then you see him, the very thing that he told, that the popes tell you that is the sign of the devil, the pentagram, he draws it in his own blood, undresses, and put his body in it, because it's absolutely the opposite. Which means these people have deceived the entire world, called that which is good evil, and called that which is evil good, put the world in darkness. That's the great Masonic secret. Do you understand? And of course, Ma is Isis, Son is Horus. And the principle goes back even before that millennia, not just a couple, but thousands into history is even only preserved in stone, that which would not rot. And even then, it's modern for us. So if you ever found that out, everything that they told you in so-called religion would collapse. That's why they don't want this information out. Because we've been here millions of years. And we've traveled this planet, these 7 lights in this planet, which is represented by the 7 golden candlesticks in the book of Revelation. The 7 Eloi are the 7 lords or the rulers of the particular ruling planets in this particular solar system. And as I told you before, what you see in ancient Egypt when they say Dawiti, from which you get the term deity, is the planet Mercury, which is a communication center. You just lost knowledge of yourself. Do you understand? And so people's concept of what they think gods are is modern. That stuff didn't exist in the ancient world. God is a verb transitive. It's not a being. All high priests know that. The dummies who pay the bills are the only ones that don't know that. That's how the high priests steal their power. See, because when you think that God is the name of the supreme being, you go looking for him, her, it, whatever, and you become stagnant. The high priests know that God is a verb transitive. It's a doing. It is transitive, meaning that it's action and waiting to act, and potentially to act. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so the people feel all confident. I know the Lord if they're stagnant. The priests just stole their power and they don't even know it because they said God. And the people start and they're giving them their lunch money. And that's a demon right there in black garb, pulling them into the pit. And they stand behind a pulpit. Do you understand? And just attach them right there in the pineal gland. You know, and so until people really know the truth about ancient religion, real politics, real world history, you're food. That's why when a Nazarene, you see the Nazarene, he says, your hair like lamb's wool, skin like burner's breast, the brown paper bag test, and we ain't caught on yet. I come amongst my own, and they receive me not. Oh, they want to be Romans? That's on them. Now they buying and selling with Roman names, can't move without getting a license from Rome, even think Rome's an American. He's a colonist. A child knows that until the parent messed their head up. And you're paying for your own enslavement. Nationalization is your redemption, spiritually and politically. And you must understand that really, because Rome ain't playing. They got a scorched earth policy. They're jealous of you. They're angry. They're afraid. One of the other problems with Rome is this. In stealing the history or hiding the history and stealing the birthright, they are also credited with some evils on the planet that they didn't commit. We did. You know how like you steal somebody's car? Man stop you? Yeah, I was, riding down the street right here. And the guy stopped me and stuff, He says, well, where's your paper? Oh, my aunt, Frida, we know where McDonald's is, right? Well, as soon as you turn around there, and then I left my papers on the dresser, but that's my stuff. Oh, you sure it's yours? Yeah, man, I was going to get my papers in a minute. Well, all right, I'll take your word for it. Let me check the trunk, though. And see elephant tusks and all there, Nike sneaks, sizes you don't wear. You understand, a whole bunch of other stuff, stereo equipment, two of the same thing and all. Is this your stuff? I didn't know that was there. Is this your car? Well, yeah. Well, then that's your stuff, ain't it? Well, if you stole the car, you stole what's in the trunk. And this is the problem that Europeans have. And even with us. So a lot of us think that the slavery in North America was mostly Asiatics. No, European was in slavery longer than you. And so by him stealing the history, he gets charged with all the slavery. And it's not true, because Moors had Europeans in slavery too, in North America. They were bondsmen. And slave, the word slave comes from Slovakia. It's really a nationality. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you get into this knowledge, you also must come into it humbly and with an honest and pure heart, because you are not innocent. It's just that cyclically, by the rule of reciprocity, the cycle or the karmic debt has been paid. That's why Drawley came to redeem you. So learn to love instead of hate, meaning that even though we're catching it, don't hate. I know it's because it's kind of hard, because they've been doing some stuff to us. When we had them in servitude, we didn't treat them like that. They, it's sort of like little children playing, and they go up, and then little brother smack his sister, because he can. And then she hits him twice, and he go right, she hit me. Did you hit her? I only hit her once. You know, and it's sort of like that type of thing. And this is kind of like our thing is with the European. We only hit him once, he hit us 3 times. And we talking about it ain't fair. You know, and that's kind of like what it is. So when you're thinking about reparations, you're dealing with political recognized politics between nation states. And in order for reparation to take place, you must be of a nation state. Then you must name the parties and know what you're talking about. Because if you don't name the parties, your argument is dead. And if you start talking crayons, shut up. And you keep talking, you're in contempt. Do you understand? And this is why it's important for us to really understand and comprehend real history and get off this emotional Negro, black, and color stuff. Because it was designed to make you incompetent when you wake up, meaning that they knew the time would come that you would start getting this thing together. So they had to introduce what is called connotative linguistics. Write that down. Connotative linguistics. And this is the major rule of how connotative linguistics operates, because you start applying words with a sense of legitimacy that does not belong to them. However, in law, you've neutralized yourself and don't know it. Are we clear? This is why, as an example, I had to do a radio show the other night. And one of the things that came up, because we were going over the Constitution, one of the things that came up on the show was connotative linguistics. And so, like, one of the easy things to demonstrate to our people is, like, you take them to an ordinary unabridged dictionary, show them the word black as an example. Like, say, for instance, and this is what you do with children too, like your own children. You know, if you want to redeem them, for you know, as identity, etc. So, like, say, for instance, if you go to the word black, right, and then it would go, right, italics, then it would go in the brackets, right, and then now the brackets is the etymology. And so how would a scholar, now with our people, as an example, our people will immediately go into what is called the linear entries, which says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they start to think, because it's an Afro person of a national African descent, and talk that stuff right. Scholar always knows this. The first thing you do is, when you looking up at any word, is you put it in its proper matrix. Matrix is womb. Matrix means womb. Are we clear? So we know the matrix of words is 8, right? 8 is infinity. Right? So the languages are broke up in what is called 8 parts of speech. Excuse me, brother can't spell, ain't that deep? 8 parts of speech, right? So the first thing that you do is place the word into its proper matrix. You do not go into the linear definitions. As soon as you go into the linear definitions, you know, unless you already know better, they already know that you can't read. Do you understand? Because the first rule is to go into the matrix. You go into the matrix, and the matrix is to find the mother of the word, and the mother is called etymon. And the science of finding the mother is called etymology. Do you understand? All right, so if you disrespect the etymon, then they can introduce what is called connotative linguistics, and you take it up and then you start casting spells against yourself. You know how I say, can you spell? Now keep in mind, first there was, put your fingers up, first there was the Word. And the Word, we're matching words, was with God. Now, so God is mentioned one time. So this one over here, right? And the Word was God. So God's mentioned twice, Word is 3 times. The Word is God. So if you don't know the Word of God, you can't know God. You see? So the word God means to call upon. This is where you get the ritual of prayer. To invoke. That's where you get the effect of prayer. Contemplation, concentration. You see what I'm saying? Contemplation. To invoke and to pour out. This is where you get the ritual with the water rituals of libation. That's what the word God means. It's what the forces do. It's not what the forces are or is. That's what gives the preacher, the priest, the upper hand on you. He got you out there treadmilling in the tulips with doo-doo. He dressed in silk and everything, $3,000 suit, talking about. And one of these days, just keep up alive, because saith the Lord. And then he bounces around the stage like this. He got zippers on his pocket, though. Right. And then you all start crying. Yeah, then you all start crying. And then start getting them your mortgage money. Make sure Jesus gets his half. You understand? And if you really think Jesus is getting his half, tell him you wouldn't make it tonight, ask for a direct count, you know, because see, I got this BlackBerry in here, and I can make a direct deposit and see if he give you Jesus, Chase Manhattan, the cat. That count that don't exist. But adults really think Jesus got an account. And of course, God's always broke. It just happens to be always broke. But anyway, so then you go from the matrix, because remember, so you first thing you do is put the word into its proper matrix. So a child, right? So we have like Nicholas up here, right? Nicholas would go to 3rd grade grammar, because they get in 3rd grade, right? So if it's an adjective, right, it describes, it does not identify, right? It can be used to modify a noun, but it is not a noun. Therefore, it cannot be and never was and could never be a person, place, thing, or idea, but adults can't get that. So before you even get into the linear entries, you know that's no one's identity. Do you understand? We're not finished. Then you go into the etymon, which would be big as day, M-E, which means Middle English. So you know this word has no life on the planet past the medieval period. Therefore, you're talking from the 1100s to 1400s, and you're talking in the middle of that. Therefore, there's no such thing as no ancient black gods of Egypt, because it don't damn exist. That's the difference between a scholar and a dummy who pays the bills. Are we clear? Now you know how to read. Now see how simple that is? and you teach that to your children. And so this makes the difference between how other children excel and our children don't, because their parents teach them the truth of etymology and orthology, etc. This is also why we even put the little 8th grade test for the little European children in books to show you that many of our people don't even get that in college now. But anyway, we only got a few minutes. Let me run through this real quick. So automatically you know that you can't be black. But then you have your older dictionaries, which would give you what you call the morphology of words, the transfer of words, all right? It would give you language charts in the back. And then you would find underneath of this, right? And then a dot, then a dot, then a dot. And then it would show this in small case because it's an adjective. Then it would show this in capital to show you the identity of the people who think they're Afro, Negro, etc. right in the dictionary. Do you understand? And then it would have what? Noun, which is the proper matrix. Which means they know our people don't even read it. You can find out who you are right in the dictionary. And like the sister say, they run right to the bank every day laughing at you. And then you present this to most of our people. What kind of religion is that? Now you understand why the people can't get reparations? Because this can be traced to the wars, to the treaties that supersede that Constitution and stand now today as the supreme law of the land. Trust you learned something. Take that stuff home, do some notes. Thank you all for coming out to Everlasting Life.